Hi, I'm Erika Cole, the church attorney here, and I'm jumping in to respond to a request that pastors have been asking me all day about what really happened in this situation with Bishop Henry Fernandez and Bishop Joel and Dr. Joel Tudman. So, first of all, let me say that I'm an attorney with over 20 years of experience representing denominations, churches, faith-based organizations. However, I'm not directly involved in this matter. I'm giving you legal insights because so many people have asked me this question, and I really think it's helpful, especially in a circumstance where um, the communication has been pretty sparse about what happened. And meanwhile, the fanfare of when the announcement was made 5 months ago was on a broad platform and with lots of glowing support. So just so you know, this is about church leadership transition, a church leadership transition of the Faith Center in Florida. And the truth is, church leadership transitions can make or break a church. We've seen it in this most recent example, but it's not the only one. The confusion and the division can spread quickly and far and wide when succession isn't handled carefully. It's something that I've had the blessing of being able to help churches, denominations with over decades. And it does take time and planning to get it right. But today I'm sharing the 5 key legal lessons for churches about succession planning. This is a reflection of when it can go awry. So, number one, it's critical to put governance in writing to make sure that your governance is in order to start off with. So, what do I mean by that? Many churches rely on informal understandings when choosing a successor. A lot of times it can be a thing that's based on prayer, and that is the number one thing, right? I'm a believer. I always say I was raised in the church. My mom was my Sunday school teacher. My dad was the head deacon and trustee of our church. I've been a believer since I was 13 when I committed my life to God. And, I was raised Pentecostal. So, there were some layers to this. But I just want to make sure that we recognize that this can't be handled in an informal way. Yes, it should absolutely start with the spiritual underpinning, right? We need to make sure that we have God's direction for when it's time to transition out and God's direction for whom to transition in. But having said that, your bylaws, your constitution, and your policies have to clearly define how a new pastor is selected, who has authority to be involved, and what the role elders or trustees play. Because without this clarity, transitions can unravel very quickly. And that is a critical starting point. All right. Point number two, you've got to clarify employment versus calling. What do I mean by that? A pastor may feel called, but the church also needs an employment agreement that spells out expectations, right? It's got to be documented in a proper contract. This is why I love the work that I get to do in serving churches because as the church attorney, I have deep understanding of how churches operate. And I have deep understanding of legal requirements, right? So we want to make sure that that employment agreement spells out expectations, any period of evaluation, any conditions for termination. This can perhaps help avoid painful disputes when a transition doesn't work out as planned, which can happen, right? But we want to make sure that we do it as circumspectly as possible when we get to that place. And I will say I actually created a document that really outlines the process for a church succession. And so if you want that, just drop it in the chat below and we'll make sure that we get that over to you. Third point is establish a succession timeline. This is really critical because healthy transitions don't happen overnight. Churches should develop a succession roadmap that includes an overlap between the outgoing and incoming leaders, clear communication to the congregation, and training for the next leader. We can't assume that people will automatically know, or that new leader will automatically know what the expectations are if we don't lay them out clearly, right? So establish a succession timeline that gives time for that new leader to transition in and the former leader to really be able to put his or her blessing on the new leader and also help foster that vision to continue. Point number four, we want to make sure that we protect the church's asset and missions. Had to say that. Of course, I had to cover that because when leadership changes are rocky, the church's reputation, which of course also can impact the church's finances, and membership can suffer, right? All of these things are related. So the proper legal safeguards like board oversight, transparency measures, and documented decision making protect the church's mission and help to minimize risk. Fifth and final point, it's critical to communicate with grace and transparency. I know this can be a very difficult part, but while some details must remain private, and trust me, the things I know that I will take to my grave many, many years from now, God willing, that I know because of my work with churches, I know that some details must remain private. That's a part of what I do when I help churches really walk through any kind of situation where things blow up and become public, right? Churches should avoid secrecy, though. A culture of openness builds trust. Leaders can acknowledge changes without sparking division, ensuring that members remain united around Christ and not personalities. So succession planning is much more than choosing the next pastor, choosing the next leader. It's about protecting your church legally, spiritually, and reputationally. The situation that we are seeing play out today reminds us that without clear legal and governance safeguards, even the strongest churches can face turmoil. So if your church hasn't reviewed its succession plan or it doesn't have one, now is definitely a time. Don't wait until conflict forces your hand. I hope that you will join us at the Church Law and Leadership Summit. This was formerly known as the Church Compliance Conference. This is one of the areas that we're talking about. It's been on the agenda for months. So it's just so happens that these recent events just is reminding us why it's important to have these discussions. So bring your church leaders, bring your team. We hope that we'll see you at the Church Law and Leadership Summit. It's virtual and it's online, so you can join us from wherever you are. And we also have opportunities for the replay, and you'll be able to download a really helpful companion guide that will provide you some direction in these areas. God bless you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.